Hi, good day everyone, especially to all you Mazda 3 NA modders. Good day from Australia. And in this video I'm going to potentially save you hundreds to possibly thousands of dollars on buying an aftermarket intake system. So for those that are new to owning a used Mazda 3 Gen 1 or Gen 2 BKBL, before you throw away your dollars, watch this video on an effective mod. So my experience comes from a short ram intake from HPS, which does suffer from heat soak, was sucking in hot air from the engine bay, particularly when you're stuck in peak hour traffic. Does have some benefits in improved throttle response when you can get cold air in, such as when you're actually driving. The benefits kind of are not really there for daily usage. So after doing some intake temperature checks and measuring, I opted for extending this HPS design to a cold air intake, which is basically just relocating where the air is sucked in into a lower area of the car. In this case, it's right behind the front fog light. Some nicer throttle response, but for the cost of purchasing the intake kit and mod permits, just to make sure you don't get pulled over and your car gets stickered. In Australia, it's basically you've got to pass all these tests, so it costs you a significant chunk of money, which I don't feel gets you much benefit, particularly in a naturally aspirated car. It's not benefiting as much as a turbo setup. So yeah, I'm just throwing out this idea that maybe some people have already done, but it's a cheap mod for you DIYers and maybe those of you on a budget, or maybe if you can put that money from the expensive intake kits into something that's actually more worthwhile and does offer a more noticeable improvement to our car, such as a rear sway bar or stiffer engine mounts or suspension upgrades, which is, to be honest, really what this car benefits from. To understand how the stock OEM air intake system works, it draws in air via this saxophone looking thing, which is called an fresh air intake duct or intake resonator. So this draws in air from behind the area of the front headlight, sucks it down and up and then into your air filter box, which is where your panel filter is, and then that has a MAF sensor which monitors your mass airflow as well as your intake air temperatures, and then into your throttle body. So with this mod idea, instead of spending money on a cold air intake system, what we're going to do is remove the fresh air duct, which is done via 3 bolts. You can do this via access through the front wheel well and from the bottom, but this does require very small hands, so it's much easier to remove the front bumper to do this. And then you can also remove this little shield cover thing, which is not needed. And then this exposes this little hole here, which is where your air will come through into your airbox. So this DIY mod involves plumbing some sort of piping or tubing into this hole and getting the intake entrance to be lower to the ground. There is an area behind the front fog light which does get air through, and that's where I suggest you figure a way to mount and secure your piping. And then that's basically it. You now have a cold air intake system for dirt cheap. So the money you save from that, you can buy a less restrictive panel air filter. I think there's some by K&N and AEM and some other brands. I'm sure you can do your own research, but just from experience, spending all that money for very insignificant gains and a lot more noise and just a little bit of throttle response, it's just not worth it. Spend your money on handling upgrades on this car. It really does benefit. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this video and it saves you a couple $100 or thousands of dollars. Happy modding. Cheers all.